Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and I'm coming to you from my home right now because I wanted to talk about something kind of personal with technology and privacy. Now, I've seen it all over the news and in articles. A lot of people are talking about how there are hidden cameras in their Airbnbs or these different places that they rent to go and spend time with their family or their loved ones. I myself have rented plenty of Airbnbs to go on vacations with family. I have 4 kids and we have friends with kids, and so we often like to rent a cabin or rent a beach house or something like that and actually go and share a bigger space where everybody has enough room to kind of move about, and we have a kitchen and lots of room. But the concern comes when maybe you're afraid of being filmed in one of these places because they have a security camera or something like that running, and that encroaches on your privacy. And so there's been a lot of people who have shown up at an Airbnb only to find out that they have cameras around, or maybe there's the fear of the cameras. And then what happens then? You're already there. Chances of finding somewhere else to go are going to be challenging and expensive. So what do you do? And a lot of times now these cameras are hidden. The owners of the property don't want people to know that they're there because obviously people don't want to be filmed. So the hidden cameras are really well hidden. But the fact of the matter is that they are Wi-Fi cameras most of the time. These Wi-Fi cameras connect to some sort of Wi-Fi network so that you can view them from an external location. Think about the Nest cams. Like, I have Nest cams in my home, and Nest cams broadcast over a Wi-Fi connection, and of course I can use my phone and view those. Now, there are cameras that you can get that just record to a SD card, so there isn't going to be any Wi-Fi connection, but those are not necessarily very common. Most people are using some sort of wireless security and finding unique ways to hide those or conceal those. So there are a couple of different ways, and I wanted to share those with you to where you can kind of find out whether or not the place that you are in, the place that you are staying, has any Wi-Fi connected cameras. And then I'll talk to you about a couple of different ways that you can track down maybe those cameras that aren't Wi-Fi. So the first one obviously is going to be the Wi-Fi cameras. Those are going to be the biggest offenders because the Wi-Fi cameras are broadcasting live somewhere. They're sending a signal to some sort of server, and then somebody on the other end with access can view what that camera sees. Think about your Nest cams, and there's a lot of different other manufacturers out there that make Wi-Fi cameras. I've even reviewed a few of those different cameras on this channel. So Wi-Fi network is required though, and most of these Airbnbs are going to give you some sort of a connection to Wi-Fi because you're going to go stay there. You're going to want to connect to the internet and use the internet for different things, and so they give you access to Wi-Fi. Now, simply by being on the same Wi-Fi network as any of their Wi-Fi connected devices, you're going to be able to be able to see what's connected. There are apps that you can download for your phone, and I'm going to show you how these work here in a second. These apps will look at everything that's connected to the network, and it will show you all of the devices that are connected. There aren't too many devices that can connect to a network and not identify themselves in one way or another, unless somebody has a very advanced system or they go the extra steps to having a separate Wi-Fi connection for their own devices, and then they give a guest Wi-Fi to you. Obviously, that would create some sort of separation, but most of the time, you can go and actually just on their modem or on their internet modem itself. Most of them these days have the connection password and information right on the side of them, unless they've taken the time to reset. Most of these people, and I think what I'm getting at here is most of these people are not super technical. They're not going to have this so well planned out that you're not going to be able to find the device that you're trying to find. So using one of these apps, and I'm going to show you one that's for iPhone and one that's for Android, you can actually see what is on a Wi-Fi network. And when we look at my network here at my house, you'll be able to see 3 different networks. Now, as a last-ditch effort, maybe it's one of those one of those cameras that just records to an SD card. And what that means is that it's constantly recording to its own storage within the camera. And when it reaches the end of its storage, it starts to delete items that were earlier on. Same thing as I have a camera in my truck, a dash cam, and it's constantly recording, and it will hold about 14 hours of content. And then when it reaches the end of that 14 hours, it starts deleting files from the beginning so that it can continuously record as you continue to drive. And those also are types of recording devices that people are showing having found in their Airbnbs, and they'll take the SD card out of them. But a lot of these also do both things. They might be a Wi-Fi also with an SD card in the back of them. There actually aren't too many of them that are simply Wi-Fi only. Like the Nest cameras are Wi-Fi only. They don't have an SD card in them, whereas some of the other brands out there have an SD card, so it records to the SD card on the camera, and then it also broadcasts. So simply taking out the SD card is not going to take away the fact that somebody could have recorded it using, some sort of a service similar to what Nest offers, being able to play back anything that's happened within a certain time frame if they're a subscriber to the service. So there are devices that are hit or miss that you can get. There are what are considered an RF device, and an RF device will you can bring it near devices and it will detect whether there's an RF frequency coming from it, and that basically is going to tell you whether some sort of device has a Wi-Fi connection emitting to and from it. So an RF reader, RF type of device isn't really going to help you if it is just a standalone camera with no Wi-Fi connection at all that has an SD card in it. What you're going to need there is some sort of a device that actually reads the consumption of electricity, and sometimes cameras and different devices may put off a very little bit of radiation, and there are devices that you can use that will actually show that. The devices that we see in the movies, where they wave it around the room and stuff and it beeps, those don't necessarily exist to that extent to where you can just go and do that. It's either going to be an RF device, which is going to tell you whether or not there's a wireless signal emitting, and that's only going to work for devices that are sending a wireless signal, or there's a device that's going to show whether or not there's some sort of an electronic connection or consumption. And where that's going to get tricky is, say, for example, you're putting that device near a lamp and thinking maybe, there's a camera in this lamp. The fact that the lamp is consuming power is going to trigger this device potentially just like a little camera would. So it's going to be really tricky. I think probably the best advice I can give you overall is if there's some sort of a little device that you see plugged in somewhere and you're not sure what it is, you can always unplug it, or you can always contact the owner of the property that you're staying at and ask them specifically what that device is, just so you can clarify. So there's a lot to think of and a lot there, and I know I can't give you one perfect thing to do that's just going to go and solve any potential issue that it may come to with having some sort of a Wi-Fi device, but I wanted to give you all the options. My biggest concern is going to be some sort of a camera that's connected to Wi-Fi, because that's most likely going to be the camera type that's there. Any small little pinhole type of camera that's mounted somewhere really will most likely be so low resolution that there just isn't going to be any problem. And then as a couple pieces of advice that I could give you just on being safe in these Airbnbs or any other properties that you're afraid of might have some sort of recording device, is just to, if you're going to change clothes, do it in a bathroom. Chances are they're not going to have a device like that in the bathroom, because if they did, they're going to get, they have the potential to get in big trouble for something like that. If you did find out that there was a recording device in the bathroom, you could take them to court over that really easily. If there's a recording device in the kitchen, they can argue that it's a security device there to protect their property. There's a lot of things that they can say that would give them a legitimate purpose or reason to have that device. But in the bathrooms, I recommend if you're going to do any changing, anything like that, do it in the bathrooms. Obviously, there are other activities that you might not want to do in the bathroom that require stuff. And so you'll want to look around in the bedroom and make sure that you kind of scan around. Obviously, these cameras are not going to work well at all if the lights are out, so consider having the lights be out completely. A dark room is a camera's worst enemy. These cameras do not see that well in the dark. The only ones that do are the cameras that have infrared on them, and that requires a big lens. You're definitely going to notice an infrared camera. The cameras that see in the dark that are super tiny just aren't going to be something that you're going to find there. Those tiny cameras with infrared at all are not going to be that tiny. It's going to be about the size of a Nest Cam. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of share with you some of that stuff. I think my hopes are to put you at ease a little bit with the fact that some of those tiny cameras that may be hidden about that they bought off of Amazon for $30 are not going to produce any quality of footage for them if they were the type of person to use it in a malicious way or whatnot, or to peep on people or something. I don't think you really need to worry about that. All right, well, I hope that this video helped you out a little bit, helped you at least understand how you can go and kind of take a look at what is at the property that you are staying at, just to kind of put you at peace. I think that's all what we really want, is just to make sure that we're staying somewhere that's safe and secure. Obviously, that's going to come down to each individual situation being different as to whether or not there's recording devices or not in there. But knowing that you can scan the Wi-Fi to see if there are any Wi-Fi connected devices, knowing that there are basic pieces of equipment that you can get out there for a reasonable cost so that you can scan maybe something that looks a little questionable. But really what it comes down to is just these are going to require power so you can unplug them. Any battery-powered camera is not going to last that long, and so any battery-powered camera will most likely run out of power if it's continuously recording for more than 12 to 24 hours. There are battery-powered cameras that just go on and record whenever there's motion. A lot of those cameras are best for outdoors and they don't work too well. They're also good size because they have to have a battery in them. So, I mean, gosh, there's a lot that I could really say here, and I feel like I can go on for a long time talking about this, but I'm gonna save this whole topic of going even further down this road for a State of Tech podcast that's coming soon. So you'll wanna make sure to check the description down below for a link to it, to where you can sign up to be notified. Really soon, I'm gonna have this podcast out where we can talk more in depth. I don't wanna make these videos super long, so I wanna make sure that we can talk about things in depth in a way that makes sense, and I think a podcast is that. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you loved it, and I hope to see you back here soon on State of Tech. Thanks a lot.